exercise. Today we are focused on self-care. And with self-care, I always like to give ourselves more time and more space than we might allow ourselves on a normal basis. So today I just want to ease into our program. With the breathing exercise, we'll go in through the nose, out through the mouth at your own pace. If you're feeling a little anxious or agitated, go ahead and put your hand over your navel to really ground into your center, essence, and power. And in through the nose, out through the mouth 3 times. All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here, whether you're catching us live or on the replay. I know 1 o'clock is a tough time here, at least on the West Coast, to catch something live. So a lot of you are watching the replay. And that just gets us fully present here in the present moment. That's a gift you can give yourself anytime, no matter how stressed or relaxed you are. If you just take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, and recenter yourself, it brings you back present. So there's no worries about anything that happened in the past. There's no anxiety about anything coming in the future. It just brings you right here into this moment, which is always a good thing. So that is the initial idea for this program of self-care today, is to remain in the present moment. I'm excited today. We're going to speak in a little bit with Deb Atella. She is an amazing, amazing woman that has written a book all about that transition when you're not sure if the job you have is the job you're meant to have and what to do next. She has a Facebook group called The Sisterhood of What Next, so women who are in transition. So we will get to speak with her in just a bit. Before we get started with that, I want to invite you all to just sink into the concept of self-care today. And I like to think of us each as a body of energy. And we're here on this planet in a human suit, but we are all a little ball of energy that gets to interact with all the energy around us. And my mantra is always, I am love, I radiate love, and I attract love, because it's all just an exchange of energy. So whatever you focus on being yourself is what you put out into the world, and thereby it is what is reflected back to you as well. So I like to think of it as the umbrella concept of love. But anytime you're trying to manifest something in your life, maybe more relaxation, more me time, more energy, whatever that is for you in that moment, just think of it as I am that, I radiate that, and I attract that. So that's our first step in self-care, is to truly set the intention of what you want to be, create, and attract in this world so that you can do so with ease and grace. And I know when Deb and I connected with her sisterhood on Facebook, we were talking a lot about ease and grace. So today is a day of self-care. So really manifesting that for yourself. And if you are a client of mine or have worked with any of my previous groups, you're familiar with the happiness list. And that is taking yesterday as we go through that self-awareness practice and writing a list of what you know to be true as things that make you happy, things that bring you joy, things that in a moment's instant that you can do right now. It doesn't, cost a whole vacation trip or a lot of money. It's just little things that you can do for yourself at any given moment to bring more joy into your life. Sometimes it's cleaning your house just to get that sense of beauty and relaxation of space around you. Sometimes it's setting boundaries and saying no to invitations so that you can make more time for yourself and to relax and recharge. But sometimes it's pampering yourself and enjoying a bubble bath or a mani-pedi or whatever brings you joy and makes you feel the most like yourself and the most radiant version of yourself. So today is all about self-care. And then on Sunday, we will actually be taking a day off from the challenge to really dive into your own practice of self-care, whatever that means for you. We're taking the day off on Sunday. So the time that you would normally be here with us, I'm going to invite you to spend that time dedicated to yourself and bringing joy into your life on Sunday. But here we are today on Friday, and I want to introduce you to Deb Atella. The title of her book is This Job My Jam? I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. I know I hopped through many different industries and many different jobs. So I'd like to introduce Deb. Feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And self-care changed my life. And I know that's a pretty bold statement, but when I started to take care of myself, I changed my whole life. So I'm going to take you on the story of how I did it, right? So way back in 2017, I was working for a friend and I was managing his optometry practice. On Wednesdays, we had evening hours only. So I spent every Wednesday morning either running errands, but mostly how I spent them was lying on my sofa, scrolling on my phone with junky TV on in the background, freaking out over my life and crying. Nobody's home and I'm freaking out. On paper, I had this amazing life, married to the love of my life, 3 super cool, amazing kids. We're all relatively healthy, pets, big house in the suburbs, you know, the American dream, yada, yada, yada. But inside, I was a freaking disaster, a complete disaster. My husband and I were hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, not thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. We had owned a retail business, which I intuitively knew we shouldn't buy, but I didn't listen, bought it anyway. It was a big disaster. We closed it within 3 years, incurring life crushing debt. And I didn't know how we were going to get out of it. And I also knew that I was made for so much more than the same thing, different day, way of life that I was living. And I had like this also deep knowing that I was supposed to do something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I had like so many, different jobs in my life, and none of them were what I was supposed to be doing, but I didn't know how do you figure it out? How do you know what to do? So when I got the intuitive hit, I got this intuitive hit. Oh, but first, let me go back. I was on my own nerves. You know what it's like to be on your own nerves? Give me a 1 in the chat if you know what it's like to be on your own nerves, right? And I felt so much guilt and shame over the way that I felt, that like I have this amazing life but I feel so shameful and full of guilt for this financial predicament that we're in. How are we ever going to get over it? And how could I be so unfulfilled? Like, how ungrateful was I? So I felt ungrateful, shame, guilt, and I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. So it's 2017, it's a Wednesday, I'm lying on my couch and I get this intuitive hit. Meditate every day. And I'm like, what? So, I knew what it was like to not listen. And I knew things that happened when I did listen, when I would get those whispers. So I was like, all right, I'm going to listen. So I had started meditating back in 2012. In 2012, my husband and I had owned that retail business. I was coming undone and I had to find a way to relieve stress. I didn't know what I was going to do. I end up meeting this woman, this light of a woman, and we meditate together and she does Reiki on me. And every couple of weeks I would go, we would meditate, I would get Reiki. I could function. I could deal with the world. I didn't want to punch any customers in the throat for a couple of weeks. And then it would happen again. And then I would go back and get, all the good juju put back in me again. So I had been meditating all that time, alone with her, whatever. And I knew that whenever I meditated, like for a couple of days in a row, I would start to feel something, but I never did it consistently enough to examine what that something was. So I get this intuitive hit and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. I might as well do a morning routine. I keep hearing this morning routine thing, but I had a big problem. Actually, I had two huge problems. Number one, I was a quitter. I quit everything. I would joke that I was the ultimate quitter because in 2005, I had a near death experience. So I even almost quit life. Um, how was I not going to quit? I quit everything. And my second big problem, and this was huge as well, I was a night owl and I hated the morning. How was I going to get up and do stuff in the morning? What was wrong with people who did that stuff? How can I make this work? So I gave myself an out. And the out was that I only had to do these things for 1 minute each. I could do anything for a minute. It was like a couple things. I could spend like 3-5 minutes on myself in the morning. I could do this, right? So at least I thought I could. I was going to try for the first time ever. I was going to really, 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 really try. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I set out and I put Insight Timer on my phone, the app Insight Timer, to track my meditation. And I found out that if you did it for 10 days in a row, you got a star. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get those stars. How many stars can I get in a year? And at the time when I started to do this in 2017, I was like also in the middle of a big transition. My oldest son was getting ready to buy a house and move out, like to start his grown up life. My middle son was in college and my daughter was a sophomore in high school. So the nest was going to be empty really soon. And I had my whole life, I spent my whole life from when I was basically a toddler taking care of other people. To take care of myself was so foreign. And I was taught that that was selfish. It was wrong. And I also was taught that if I ever expressed that I liked the way I look in something, or the way I looked at all, or if I talked about any of my accomplishments, then I was conceited. Anybody else get fed this crap growing up, right? Give me something in the chat. Let me know you are my people. So how was I going to do this, right? So I gave myself that out 1 minute. I could do anything for a minute. So I listened to it. I listened to that intuitive hit. And I started to meditate every day for that 1 minute. And some days it was longer, and some days it wasn't. But I did it. I showed up every day for myself. And if you would have told me that that was self-care, showing up for myself was self-care, I would have been like, you're crazy. Manicures, pedicures, massages, facials, while they are all self-care, so are all these other things that I'm going to tell you that I found in that first year. And then I still continue to find over the course of these 5 years that I've been doing this, right? So showing up for myself was self-care, and also making myself a priority was self-care, and extending grace to myself. Grace was such a foreign concept for me, especially for myself. It freaked me out. I could be nice about things to myself, like I could be forgiving of myself. And I adopted Sheryl Sandberg's mantra of done is better than perfect, thus letting go of perfectionism. And something that I found out about myself as I started on this journey and I started to show up for myself, no matter who liked it, no matter who needed me, no matter who it inconvenienced, this sucks so bad. I found out I was a people pleaser. I didn't know I was a people pleaser. Like, I'm pretty badass. Like, I didn't know. I didn't think I was. I was a total people pleaser. I was so annoyed when I realized, and somebody brought that to my attention. So I call this the triple P threat: people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination. And I'm not going to go into procrastination, but I was a notorious procrastinator. Like, come on, somebody else here has to be doing those things too, right? Right. So I had to let go of these things that I held on to so tightly that I didn't even know that I really was a people pleaser. Annoyed me so much. All right. I started to look at what really mattered to me and ask myself hard questions. And I looked at my values beyond family, honesty, and loyalty. And I looked at my priorities. And then I saw where there were so many places in my life where they didn't line up, like where I didn't stand in integrity of my values or my priorities in different areas of my life? And how could I make them come together? How could I be more cohesive about it? How could I grow up? Because while I certainly had aged, I didn't feel like I grew up. I didn't feel like I was an adult. And at that time in 2017, I was 48 and a half, right? And the big 50 was going to be in a year and a half. And shouldn't you be an adult by the time you're 50? Like, age never has freaked me out, and it didn't bother me that I was going to be 50, but it bothered me that I never felt like I was an adult. I always felt like a college kid winging it. Like, this is like a frat house on steroids, and I just have dinner ready for these people. And sometimes we run out of towels and they got to use beach towels. I'm not even kidding. Like, whatever. Right? I'm like, should I like have proper sheets and towels like by this age? I got some. All right. I let toxic people go. And for those some people like I couldn't get rid of altogether, I severely limited their access to myself, which caused people to freak out, right? But hey, I had to take care of me. I set and held boundaries, which was also foreign to me, to like really hold those boundaries. And they fell in line with, what my values and my priorities are. So really knowing what are your values and priorities are so important when you're setting out to make changes in your life. I let myself feel my feelings. I never let myself feel my feelings. I ran from my feelings. I ate my feelings. I hid my feelings. I would never admit my feelings. My go-to feeling was anger. I would let myself feel anger. I would never let myself feel sad. I would never let myself feel hurt. I would never let myself feel all the things. Well, anger just masks other things, right? And I had to let myself feel those things. That sucked. When you start to take care of yourself, I'm going to tell you, it's not fun in the beginning. It can suck. It gets better when you work through these things. But in the beginning, it's really confronting, right? Admitting sometimes that I was the problem, that also was no fun. But I took a look at the energy that I brought to situations and to relationships that I had, and I got real with myself. And I was like, okay, sometimes I'm the problem, sometimes it's me. And how can I adjust and make, changes? I sought help. And I had gone to therapy for years prior to this. And if you need therapy, go get it. Don't wait, go get it. But I was at this place where it wasn't therapy that I needed. I needed something else. I needed something different. And it was coaching. And I didn't even know what that was. And I found coaching and I started to get energy work. I knew what that was regularly, right? I started to explore interests outside of what my girlfriends were doing. And all my girlfriends were doing, and there's nothing wrong with this, and I'll still do this, right? Is like drink wine, watch TV, go to dinner, shop. But I wanted to do other stuff. Like, I wanted to do witchy stuff. I wanted to know about crystals, and I wanted to know why we were here. And I wanted to go to women's circles and retreats and things like that. And none of my girlfriends were doing that. So I had to make new friends. And it was hard because, all right, I seem really awesome. I'm really awkward. And I'm like an extroverted introvert. Lisa's on here. She's my old friend. She knows, like, I'm goofy. It's hard to make friends. But I did it. I made myself uncomfortable. I was willing to let myself be uncomfortable. And that sounds crazy, but that was self-care, letting myself be uncomfortable, right? And I learned that no was a complete sentence and how to use it. And that peace and happiness are an inside job and my responsibility and nobody else's. And somewhere along that year, I don't know what point it was, because I would tell you if I knew exactly what point it was, I fell in love with me. And if you would have told me that loving yourself was like self-care, I would have been like, you're nuts, and made really inappropriate jokes that we would have laughed our asses off, but it would not have been right or appropriate. Okay. But loving yourself is really, really the biggest gift you can give to yourself and to anybody in your life that you really care about. Because when you love yourself, you glow from the inside, right? You have this, your energy shifts and it changes. Think about the people in your life, right? We all have them. Who's miserable, who constantly complains, who's in comparison all the time, who's grouchy all the time, who's passive aggressive. And like, Do you think that they're really internally happy? They're always looking for somebody else. Like, what could they do? What could they buy next? What could they have that's going to make them happy? And then when it doesn't, they're complaining. So knowing that it all comes from inside of ourselves and it's available to us and it's our responsibility, while it might seem frustrating, it's also really liberating to know that we hold that answer, right? Now, don't get me wrong, like I have things that I work on all the time. I mean, yes, I coach people and I have this business and, I've had like the success with the book and I have a podcast. I have all these amazing things, but I also work on myself all the time. I always have a coach. I'm always taking care of me. And when I began on this self-care journey, the relationships that I had with the people that I love the most got better. I thought they were pretty fantastic to begin with. I didn't even know they could get better. They got deeper and richer and fuller in ways like my human brain cannot even find the right words to explain to you how much better and deeper and more fun they got, but they did. So, how do you start? How do you do this, right? I'm going to say, first thing, keep a promise to yourself, something really small. Maybe it's you empty the lint screen every time you do the wash, or you put the wash away. Something small. You take the trash out, or you just do, you hang your coat up and you don't throw it somewhere. Do it for like 3 days. And if you forget, don't beat yourself up. Restart. Like after the holidays when we're like, oh, we ate too much, we're going to go on the diet on Monday. And then we don't go on the diet on Monday. And then it's like 25 Mondays from now. And then you beat yourself up. Don't do that. Just start again. Just start again. Right? So keep a little promise to yourself. Celebrate. Rinse, repeat. I also learned to celebrate my wins. And I set the bar really low in the beginning so that my nervous system got used to me celebrating me. And I learned that, from my coach, but that was such a foreign concept. So you want to learn how to celebrate your wins, like as little as I do a happy dance. That's my go-to win. Me patting myself on the back, doing a happy dance. If you know who Mel Robbins is, she has the high five habit. You give yourself a high five in the mirror. Do something that celebrates yourself every day. And you empty the dishwasher, celebrate, right? You took the dog out, celebrate, whatever it is. Let your nervous system start to get used to you being good to you. And watch how quick other little things in your life shift. Be aware of your thoughts, your triggers, your energy, what you bring to situations. Learn how to set boundaries. Let go of that people-pleasing procrastination, perfectionism. Be willing to be uncomfortable. Seek help. Try new things. But most of all, love yourself. Love yourself. When you love yourself, it affects your energy and your vibe, and you become magnetic. So make sure that you're attracting the right things in your life that you want and those people. And that is how I changed my whole life and literally ended up here in front of you today.
I love it. Thank you so much. What an amazing bulk of lessons to learn and they all attach to each other. So it makes sense that once you start with something small, it kind of snowballs into this experience of learning to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I love your triple P threat. I think that is fabulous because it's true. Those are such a threat to self-love because people pleasing is looking for that love outside of yourself when really you can provide it for yourself. And perfectionism is trying to keep you in that comfort zone where the magic happens outside of that. And I love thinking of procrastination because that is so often just letting you know you're out of alignment and something isn't working for you and you need to make changes to ease back into that flow and grace. So brilliant that those three go together. I love that.
Yes. And that procrastination one, I was actually the queen of all of them. I didn't know, like, I thought that perfectionism was, remember Desperate Housewives? Do you remember that show? And Brie, the redhead, and she would have, like, she was dressed perfectly, makeup, hair, and she would polish the silver and her house was sparkling. I thought that's what perfectionism was. So I didn't think that I was a perfectionist, but but it's also something else. It's also like, oh, I can't I can't write in my journal because I don't have the right pen. I can't cook this meal because I don't have the right pots, or, I don't have the fancy tablecloth to set the table, or you don't have the tools that you think you need to do something.
Right. And I
Yeah.
always believe whatever you have in this moment, internally and externally, is exactly what you're meant to have to be able to do
Yep.
what your heart wants to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can prosper where you're planted. You
I love
don't need
that.
anything
Yeah.
else. You can really make anything work. You just have to want, you have to be willing to get out of your way and do it. That's what it
Absolutely.
is.
So I
Mhm.
know this was kind of a year that you took and really focused on this. How
Mhm.
much of it have you maintained in your daily practice going
Pretty,
forward?
pretty much all of it. Like
Nice.
pretty much all of it. My morning routine has shifted. I used to do the Miracle Morning. That first year I did the Miracle Morning. That's a book by Hal Elrod and a morning routine. And then I was like, you know what? That's something that I didn't talk about. You're allowed to change your mind. That's self-care too.
Yes.
You're allowed to change your mind on what you do. So I changed it to make it, what would make the biggest difference in my life if what could I do if I did these certain things would make a difference. So then I changed up what I did. It always has included meditation and reading though, always.
Nice. Nice.
Mhm.
So with the gals here and the ones catching on the replay, if they want to learn more about your book and, just your inspirational words, where can they find you?
So everybody who's on live or catching the replay can actually get a free PDF version of my book on my website. I can put the link
Put
in the
it in the
chat.
chat.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can put it in the chat. And you can go to my website and you can find me there, or I'm on Instagram at my name at Deborah Atella. And my email is on my website, hideb@deborah.atella.com.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Feel free to pop it in the chat and
All
the
right.
follow-up email. I'll include that for everyone. And I'll also put it
Awesome.
in the Facebook group. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. And ladies, for those of you watching, as always, we'll have a writing prompt. Today's writing prompt is to simply write a list of at least 10 things that you can do in this moment without needing any additional resources that you have in this moment to be able to do to bring yourself more joy. And I invite you to share as many of those in the Facebook group that you feel comfortable, but also invite you to post a photo of you doing something today in these next 24 hours that brings more joy to your day, simply as a gift to yourself, and share that with us so that you can inspire everyone in the group. I love you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here today. And I wish you all a day of self-care. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.